hey, and welcome back. So today I want to talk about the Headrush MX5 guitar effects and amp modeling processor. It's a multi-effects unit at a very reasonable cost, and I want to give a basic overview and review of the unit with my experience so far. So if you guys are not new to the channel and you've seen a couple of other videos, you know that my Quad Cortex gave me some issues and I had to send it away to be repaired. And in the interim, I ordered the Headrush MX5 to use, and within about a day I was up and running and off to play a show with the unit. So I want to base my experiences around that. I want to talk a little bit about the user interface and the ease of use. So the tones that you heard in that intro track were all courtesy of the Headrush MX5. I'm going to give you my basic overview of how I've set up that patch and the key, I think, to getting really good sounds on the MX5. So let's dig into it. Alright, so taking a look at the Headrush here. So I basically have this thing set up. When I got it, I had about a day to kind of go through everything and set it up the way I wanted it. Now, coming from the Quad Cortex, it was nice to have the touchscreen. So the touchscreen was a big draw for me, especially at this price point. I picked this thing up for less than $600 Canadian. I found a good deal on Amazon, and it's really easy to get up and running with the thing. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the top of the unit is metal, as well as there's a really nice grip pad on the expression pedal, which actually feels really nice. You can apparently adjust the expression pedal. However, I haven't really done anything like that. I just kind of kept it in its basic form, and it's worked well for me. I use the expression pedal right now for morphing of delays, so we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's essentially what I use it for. In this current preset, if we take it in here a little bit, you can see I have from the top to the bottom there, I've got a compressor, so the Dyna 3, and then an OD, which is basically like just an 808. I also have a boost pedal, which I didn't have on, that's the white boost. And for an amplifier, I was running the 82 Lead 800 Bright. So that's an inbuilt one. I haven't changed that at all. But that's basically what I was using on that intro track. And then it goes into an EQ. Basically, I just boosted some of the low gain, and then by the looks of it, just some high mids, and then low mids as well. Then I have a delay, which I have set up to 16th notes, and there are the rest of the settings there. Into another EQ. And this one, I believe, was on the preset. So I got the preset from Headrush's website. I'll drop it in the description below, but it basically came with this EQ already in the mix. And then I have a volume pedal, which when I had it on my pedal board, I had a Boss EV30 pedal hooked up to the MX5, and I would run it that way. And then I'm running IRs. Now I believe I have the same IR. Oh no, sorry, I have two different ones. So I have a Twin 212 OB with a 121 mic on it, and then the other one here is oh, it's the same. Okay, yeah, so I'm basically running dual IRs. You couldn't run two separate IRs. I haven't really messed around with that too much, but I'm essentially running one IR because they're feeding into the same. The effects loop, all that was going from my MX5 out to the send on the back of the unit, so I could run a powered wedge or something like that. Now, it's not a really great option for it because you basically have to put it somewhere in the mix that is going to, if you want to retain stereo out, you have to put it like before a stereo effect or something like that, or else you're not going to get stereo out from the main outputs. So I kind of wish there was another set of outputs on the thing, but for now, that was kind of my workaround. And then I just had one of the 11 reverbs, just a hall reverb, and there are the settings there. And from a usability standpoint, as I said, this thing is super easy to configure. Basically, if you go from the drop-down menu, these are your set lists. So you can see I had a couple of trial things here. The other ones are pretty much the inbuilt ones. Rig 1 is one I created, and then yeah, templates, wet effects, that kind of thing. They're all built in. If I just go to this trial one here, I just had a few that were actually from the same download pack that I got off the Headrush website. And I'll kind of give you, for instance, of what some of these sound like, because they actually sound really great. basic tone examples of the MX5. Now I found the key to getting a good tone, at least for my use case, was loading custom IRs onto the unit. Now it's super easy to do that, but I also found that the free pack that you can get through Headrush, their website, it's an artist pack from a guy named Jason Roller. He basically has presets and a couple of IRs, and that's where those presets that I showed you in the video example came from. Now I think they sound really good and they're super usable tones. Obviously had to tweak them a little bit for my use case, but all in all I think that is a super workable starting point for anyone doing kind of low gain stuff like most of my playing. So I want to talk a little bit about a few of the limitations I found when programming the MX5, and the biggest being the foot switch situation. Now, much like the Fractal FM3, the Headrush MX5 only has 3 foot switches, so you have to be really creative in the way that you configure the device. You can utilize a hybrid mode, which is basically stomps and 1 scene per preset, or you can utilize preset mode or stomp mode. Now, I found for the most of my presets I have it set up in scene mode exclusively, with the exception of one where I have hybrid mode set up. And because I use delays quite often, it's important to me to have kind of a tap tempo button, so a lot of times I would configure the 3rd foot switch to be tap tempo, and then that's also the one you can access the tuner with. Side note, with the tuner I found it super accurate, no issues there. It's a great display for any sort of lighting situation. It seems to be very readable outside. I even had an instance where it got rained on and I didn't find that the unit started going crazy with the touchscreen. It basically was very solid. There is a lock screen mode too, which I found very interesting, where you can basically like limit the amount of things that are on screen. You can display an image. By default it just displays the Headrush logo. And then it also displays kind of the basics of the modes that you're in, whether it's a stomp or a scene or that kind of thing. The lock screen mode was very useful for me. I basically used it similar to how I would use the gig view on the Quad Cortex. If you're not familiar with that, it basically just simplifies the display and makes it super easy to read. The Headrush has this as well, and I think that's a super cool feature. Now with the expression pedal, a lot of times I found myself using that as kind of a morph. So I would morph the delays. Basically for a solo I could adjust the time of the delay, or the mix or the feedback, or a combination of those things. So there's a couple of different modes that the expression pedal can exist in, and one of them is advanced mode, the other is classic mode. In classic mode it only controls 1 parameter. In advanced mode you can control up to 4. So quite often I would have 3 of the spots occupied by some sort of delay parameter, and then the 4th one maybe a reverb parameter or maybe an amp gain parameter as well. So the limitation with that, it was a little bit weird to set up, because with the advanced mode on the expression pedal, in order to give it a value, you have to specify it between 0 and 100% in terms of, like, if you wanted to start the mix at 25%, obviously you could set that parameter on the expression pedal to 25%. That makes sense. Now where it makes no sense to me is where they have the different subdivisions for the delays. So if you want like a 16th note delay or something like that, a pretty quick delay, you have to figure out where in the percentage that lies. I'll give you a look at what that looks like on the actual unit, because it won't make much sense unless I kind of show you as I explain it. So if we just take a quick look at this patch that I was using for the intro track, if I go to hit the 3 dots, go to hardware assign, this is essentially the expression pedal side of the screen here. So we have the different modes. We have advanced and we have classic. I had it set up in advanced because you can control 4 parameters. You can have 2 expression pedals, so A defaults to the inbuilt one, and then B defaults to one that you would have plugged into the back of the unit. As I said, I had a Boss EV30 connected before. So this is where it gets a little weird. So this is your assign panel, and then you have the range panel. So assign, I put, basically I had delay subdivisions, I had the feedback of the delay, and I had the mix of the delay, and then I had the mix of the reverb, all linked to the expression pedal A. Now when I go to range, for feedback, mix, and mix of the delay, of the reverb, excuse me, all these numbers make sense. So this is saying for this feedback one, 10% at heel down, 60% at toe down. Now where it gets weird is if I think about the delay subdivision type. So I had to basically guess, if I go into my delay here, that if I wanted a 16th note triplet, for example, delay at heel down, I had to look on this little meter and think, okay, that looks like about 24%. So then I'd have to go back into my hardware sign, go back into this, and input 24%. And then I'd have to go and check it to make sure, cycle the pedal, go back, check it, okay, that's 16th note triplet, maybe that's not what I want. Now I want maybe 26% because I just want 16th notes. So again, cycle the pedal, 16th note triplet. So I'm back again, just changing this parameter over and over. It's very non-intuitive, really. You're basically having to look off of a gauge, a little meter, and gauge what percentage that might look like. Same goes for the maximum range. Now I do think it is really cool that you can use the expression pedal to control up to 4 different parameters, and you can do the same for expression pedal B. So you could have 8 different parameters by 2 different expression pedals simultaneously. So if you wanted to use one for amp gain and the other one for delays, you can knock your socks off with that. The rest of the unit is really straightforward. You just have your basic blocks that you can add, and when you go into them, you have very intuitive adjustment parameters. You can change the color of each stomp. So basically, if I wanted my OD on here to be purple, now you can see my corresponding foot switch parameter has changed to purple from red, from green. So I'll maybe just leave that as that. There's green. You can cycle through all the different colors. But that was very nice. Definitely a kind of a nice touch for like looking down at a glance. So we've talked a little bit about the sound quality of the unit. We've talked a little bit about the things that I would like to see improved on the unit, but I also want to talk a little bit about comparing it to the other multi-effects units out there. Now obviously this is a quarter of the price of something like the Quad Cortex or the Kemper or the Fractal type of units. But that being said, I think if you are new to the multi-effects world, the MX5 could be a fantastic first starting point for you to kind of dip your toes in the water and get your feet wet, so to speak, with multi-effects unit. Basically the MX5 has the same processing power as their pedal board and gig board units in a very compact form. So that makes it super powerful. As I said, you can run dual amps, you can run dual IRs, you might even be able to run 4 IRs at once, I don't remember, but you can basically have all of the amplifier choices that you want at your fingertips. The 11 rack stuff that it was built on sounds very good out of the box. My preference is obviously towards custom IRs. You cannot upload custom amps into the MX5, you have to use kind of the inbuilt ones. But that being said, they are very usable and very realistic. They sound really great. Now the construction of the unit obviously is where they made some cost cutting. The top of it is metal, but the bottom is plastic. Now that might seem like a deal breaker, but the plastic seems really robust. I had it on the road for a good month and was using it exclusively, and I was really happy with it. I found that the unit, like the expression pedal, feels really good. The inputs and outputs I found a little bit lacking. As I said, with that effects loop block that I had in a couple of the presets there, I had to basically be creative if I wanted another set of outputs. Now I like to run stereo effects, so I was wanting my main outputs to remain intact so I could run those to front of house. I basically used a 1/4 inch to XLR adapter on my board and then ran XLR lines to the front of house whenever I needed to. But it would have been nice to have maybe another set of outputs. Now I probably could have used the headphone output. I know that you can use that simultaneously as well as the main outputs. It doesn't mute them or anything like that. But for my intents and purposes, I was using the effects send to basically power or to give signal to a powered wedge or powered speaker that I have just for some stage volume. That was my kind of fix. But if you got an 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch adapter, so male 1/8 inch to female 1/4 inch, you could also use the headphone output to go to a separate source on stage for monitoring as well. So if you're willing to be a little bit creative with the unit, I think it offers an immense amount of value for the money. As I said, I paid less than $600 Canadian for it. You can find them used for $300-400 probably, and I think they are an excellent value. And they sound great, and if you're new to multi-effects, it could be a huge stepping stone into the world of multi-effects, because you can do a lot of the things that you can do on the higher priced units for, as I said, sometimes a quarter of the cost. So I hope you got something out of this video today, and if you did, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It really does help me out as a newer YouTuber. And if you have any comments or questions, please drop them below. I do try my best to answer all comments and questions, and we hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.